All right, everyone, what's up? This is Mr. Cloud coming from North Belmore, New York. It is March 2020, and we are in the middle of an unprecedented time. We are out of school because of current pandemic called the coronavirus, and we will never forget this. But this is our first screencast, and it's all about Southern Oscillation, El Nino. Let's get right into what this is. Okay, to give you a framework for where this is in the school year, we've done climate, we've talked about climate factors, then we talk about events that can affect climate, and that's what El Nino is. So we're going to break this down, talk to you specifically about how it actually works and how it actually happens, and then we'll go from there. All right. So first things first, what is Southern Oscillation anyway? Well, specifically, it's the abnormal warming of surface ocean waters of the eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. That sounds really fancy schmancy, and we'll get into what that means in a little bit. Also, in the Pacific Ocean, high and low pressure areas will shift and oscillate between the west and the east to the west. So we really call this ENSO, which is El Nino Southern Oscillation. That's the fancy smashy term for it. So first things first, let's talk about the normal conditions in the equatorial Pacific. Once we establish normal conditions, we then can talk about what actually happens during an El Nino event. So let's try to get fancy schmancy here and use, my cursor, as well as maybe I can write a little bit to explain this. So what does normally happens here? Well, normally you have these prevailing winds that move from South America to Asia, and they'll blow steadily. These are the trade winds, and they'll blow in this westward direction. Okay, and with that, specifically with that, okay, you're going to get this warm water bulging or being pressed and just accumulating in the west. And I mean by west is Asia. So the normal conditions, once again, trade winds heading towards Asia, warm water piling up. When you have warm water, you have a lot of evaporation, you get wrecked. We got wrecked happening over here. So maybe I can actually do a little text box here too, to make sure we remember that too. So this is wrecked going on over here. Okay. On the opposite side, over here in South America, all the warm water has moved away, and it allows water to upwell, cold waters to upwell. That brings colder conditions, drier conditions, and you have high pressure dominating. So it's dry in South America, and it's normally wet in Indonesia. All right, awesome. Moving on. Let's check out what happens during an El Nino event. Okay. All right, upwelling. We just explained what that was, but specifically the trade winds are moving this way, which is towards Indonesia, and that vacates the area and allows the cool, nutrient-rich water to upwell off the coast, and the fisheries are awesome here. This nutrient-rich water really feeds the primary productivity there, and allows the food webs to just explode with life off the west coast of South America there. Now during an El Nino, this actually decreases, but it increases during La Nina. So El Nino conditions. Going back to the trade winds over here, super important. So normally, what did we say before? They blow from South America to Asia. And they'll normally do that. They'll continue to do that. But specifically over here, the trade winds are going to, excuse me, they're going to lessen. That's what they're going to do. All right, they're going to weaken or potentially reverse direction. What happens then? Well, what happens then, specifically, is the trade winds no longer press that water towards Asia. That slows down a bit, and it allows the warm water to remain over here. Uh-oh. So the warm water remains. You can imagine what happens when there's warm water. You have increased rate of evaporation. And guess what, ladies and gents? Where's my rect? Where's the rect happening, folks? Now my rect is happening right over here. Now, if you forget what rect is, it's rising, expanding, cooling to the dew point, and rainfall. So normally, what is it over here normally? Over here, specifically in South America, it's normally dry. But during El Nino conditions, it becomes wet. That warm water no longer moves across. It kind of stays. What happens over here, though? What happens in Indonesia? Well, instead of being wet like it normally is, it becomes super dry. So, ramifications of this, guess what? In this area that's dry usually, and now it's getting wet conditions and rainfall, so the ground can't withstand the rainfall over here, so you get specifically, you're going to get some wild, silly flooding events over here. And then what happens in Indonesia? Well, if it's super dry, an area that's usually wet, you're going to get forest fires. And you can actually see these from space. They can get wild during El Niños. They can get just wild. All right, so far we're looking pretty good. Next is La Nina. Well, what is that? After an El Nino, it's very common to get La Nina conditions. And this is really easy for us to understand. La Nina is just intensifying what normally transpires. So reviewing back, what normally happens? Well, normally you get trade winds going from South America to Indonesia, and you get warmer conditions. Over here in Indonesia, you have dry conditions over here. During a La Nina, it just exacerbates this. It intensifies. So you have a stronger trade wind pressing even more warm water to the west, intensifying the rainfall, intensifying the rect happening in Indonesia. You get drier than normal conditions in South America. We call this La Nina. You have more upwelling happening off the coast. Okay, so this just intensifies normal conditions. Now, El Nino, La Nina affects not only the equatorial Pacific, but it's a global climate changing event. Let's take a look at what happens in the United States. In the United States, during El Nino, if you're a skier, you're gonna hate it. Why? You get drier conditions, potentially warmer in the northeastern United States. You get wetter, cooler temperatures in the southeast, warmer winter temperatures over here in central and western Canada. It really messes with the path of the jet stream, and that's really what causes the shift. La Nina, you get drier conditions happening in the southeast over here. You get wetter and potentially more snowfall in our winter during La Nina. So skiers hate El Nino, right? Skiers love La Nina. Globally, it has far-reaching effects. This is an El Nino map around the world. And not only does it affect the United States, it affects South America, as we know already, Indonesia, Australia, even as far as Africa, causing dry conditions in South Africa, drier conditions in the African Sahel, wetter conditions closer to the Middle East. So this is a climate anomaly, folks. That's what's going on here with El Nino. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching this, and I hope this video helps you understanding El Nino and La Nina and Southern Oscillation. All right, guys, I hope to see you soon. Take care. This is Mr. Cloud signing out.